Here at the NFL annual meeting, alongside our lead writer on DenverBroncos.com, Aric DiLalla, I'm your team reporter and host, Elisa Hernandez. A lot of news been kind of floating around during these meetings, but it's fun to be down here connecting with ownership and coaching staff and kind of getting a preview of what's to come for next season.
That's right, and it's been beautiful all week, Elisa. It's been sunny. As we're recording this recap, the rain is starting to come down, so we're going to tell everybody what they need to know, but we're going to do it quickly as well, right?
Well, we caught up with General Manager George Paton as well as head coach Sean Payton, specifically about free agency moves that they had. What can you say about what they said about Dre Greenlaw as well as Talanoa Hufanga?
Yeah, this was the first time we'd heard from Sean Payton and George Paton since the Broncos' kind of big free agent moves, I would say. Later, Greg Penner kind of described it as an opportunistic free agency period. He said a couple of years ago we had to be aggressive because of the holes on offense and defense, particularly on the lines. And then last year, they're a little more reserved because of the salary cap situation. This year, they were able to be opportunistic, go after some guys. And like you said, they got Dre Greenlaw, linebacker from San Francisco, and Talanoa Hufanga, the safety from San Francisco. And what we heard from them was that these are game-changing type players, right? That they go all out, they play with effort, they're physical type players. We heard from Sean Payton about Talanoa Hufanga saying that, listen, he's going to play extremely hard. He's a first responder in terms of how he gets to the ball, and that's really key, I think, for this defense. Obviously, the Broncos tried to shore up the middle of the field there on the defensive side of the ball. I think the other key in terms of these two guys, and Evan Ingram, who we'll talk about in a second, is they've struggled with some injuries. There's been some injury concerns. One of the things Sean Payton says is that he really thinks that the Broncos, with their training staff, the way that they've been able to have the fewest injuries in the league the last 2 years, they're going to take care of these guys the right way, have them ready to go for Sundays.
You touched on Evan Ingram. Everyone's kind of been saying that Sean Payton found that joker player that he needed. Definitely a big production in the middle of the field.
Yeah, that's right. And I asked Sean in particular, how does this help Bo Nix? And he said, right, the interior triangle of the field, when you talk about the running back, the tight end, that interior receiver, the guy in the slot, that's critical for attacking a defense. And with Evan Ingram, the Broncos will be able to do that. This is a guy that can run well after the catch. He's athletic. Sean Payton said he's great when he's got the football in his hands. And he gives you on third down and in the red zone, I think, a weapon that maybe they haven't had the last few years. They've been looking for that joker. George Payton said at the Combine, it's like finding a Loch Ness monster. Well, maybe they reeled him in with Evan Ingram.
Well, you like to see the magic that they're able to pull out of their hat. And when you look at what else this team needs, the running back position kind of seems to linger there.
Yeah, we didn't see the Broncos sign a running back in free agency yet, and Sean Payton said on Monday that it was kind of a weaker class from their perspective, but they're excited about this draft. It's a strong class. George Payton said from the second round all the way to the sixth round, you can find a running back. I wonder if, obviously points out there's been a lot of ties to first round connections. He specifically said second to sixth. I don't know if that rules anything out in the other two rounds, but there's a lot of different flavors of running backs, as George Payton said, whether it's a three-down back, power, speed, elusiveness, lots of different traits the Broncos can look at.
There's definitely a lot of gems that you can find, especially in that late round. I feel like the Broncos are really good at finding those things. When you look at what's to come, training camp in specifically, how excited are you for that to get going?
Yeah, I think that's one of the things we heard about from owner and CEO Greg Penner is that because of the construction at Broncos Park powered by Common Spirit, things will look a little bit different. Probably expecting around 800 and 900 fans at training camp. This 1 year, they're going to have to find a way to make things work as you build this state-of-the-art facility. Obviously, we heard about the NFLPA survey and how they're making sure to take care of these kind of the feedback that they've gotten from players. One of that is a bigger locker room, right? More space for players. Well, you've got to build it. And so it will impact training camp a little bit this year. The other thing we heard from Greg Penner that stood out, Elisa, is about the stadium. I know there's a lot of interest in that. Nothing official yet, right? They're still exploring all options, still looking at several different sites for a potential new stadium, looking at the current site in terms of what they want to do, but nothing official there. Still years left on the lease at Empower Field at Mile High, so nothing imminent necessarily from a stadium standpoint. We heard Damani Leach say that as well.
Yeah, when I spoke to Damani Leach specifically about Broncos Park, he mentioned that it's about 15% done, and they're excited to see kind of where this goes, and they're looking to move into that around May of next year. So that's really exciting to see. Now, as it's starting to drip on us, we have to talk about the drip of the Broncos, which is these uniforms.
Oh, I like it.
Like that segue, right?
Yeah, I think the biggest news maybe from owners meeting so far is that there's a rule change in terms of alternate jerseys, which includes the throwback jerseys, the Broncos Midnight Navy uniforms. You can now wear them 4 times in a season. Previously, it had been 3. So, the Broncos wore their throwbacks against the Raiders and Chiefs last year. They wore the Navies in that thriller against the Browns. You can add one more this year, and so maybe you wear the throwbacks 3 and you do the navy one time, maybe you do 2 and 2. We'll have to see how that all goes. I'm sure that'll be announced closer to the season, but for fans of the throwbacks, fans of the alternates, this is a really big deal. The one other piece of news from Damani Leach's media availability was international game. Nothing's guaranteed, not necessarily a foregone conclusion that the team will play an international game, but they have stated a preference to play in Berlin, which would be against the Indianapolis Colts, or in London against the Jets. Sounds like Berlin is that kind of top priority for the Broncos. We know that Sean Payton loves having a chance for his team to go and bond, spend some time on the road together. We saw it work last year right at the Greenbrier. It's kind of spurred this whole playoff run with a 2-game win streak. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, it's been a great week down here at the Breakers, and it's funny because it's been lovely all week. Now we get a little bit of a shower to cool off, and yeah.
It's too much heat from this analysis. That's why they got to cool us down.
I think that's it.
Well, there you have it, Broncos country. Really excited to see what plays out over the next couple of months. As always, I'm your team reporter and host, Elisa Hernandez, staying alongside my weatherman over here, Aric DiLalla, who's also your lead writer on DurhamBroncos.com.